Good evening, everybody. I realize we're starting a little bit early today, but that's because our fearless leader, Keela, is not with us. She has asked me to go solo tonight, so I have graciously agreed to do that. Just real quick, for those of you who don't know, Keela's been going through some medical issues for quite a while now. She has recently started to experience very low, like dangerously low blood pressure and heart rate. And her doctors are very concerned about her. They are putting her on a new medication today that they are hoping will correct that situation. If not, she's going to probably end up back in the hospital again. And as you guys know, she spent her birthday last year in the hospital. And I can't think of a worse place in the world to be on your birthday than the hospital. So let's send Keela a lot of love and fingers crossed everything works out. Um, I'm going to do the show tonight and then I'm on vacation next week, but I will be back Thursday for what I hope, fingers crossed, will be Keela's birthday stream. So, um, and that she is at home in Texas and able to do that with us and spend her birthday with us for a change. That would be nice. So what do we got going tonight? Today is Happy Friday. Today is also the first day of spring, although in some places it's probably hard to tell. It was 72 degrees and sunny today here in Detroit. I don't know what all you guys have experienced, but hopefully you had some nice weather for the first day of spring. Um, let's check and see who we got here tonight. Hi, Jersey Jan. Hello, Susie Oberholtz. Nice to see you. Brian, nice to see you, sir. Ben Bacon Bits, never miss a show. Good man. Just Tiff is here. Hi, Tiff. Hi, Violet. And oh well, some people get vacay. Well, I don't get it very often, Ben, and I just need to get out of town for a few days and enjoy a change of scenery for a little bit. Prayers for Keela. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Violet. Appreciate that. So tonight we were going to talk about intuitive empaths. I believe this is part 6 of our series on empaths. We are nearing the end. I mean, we could talk ad nauseum about the different types because there are so many, but we're just going to talk about some of the intuitives tonight. And then hopefully the next show or maybe 2 after Keela's birthday stream will be about the tools that we've been talking about for empaths to reclaim themselves and continue on with a life that can be utilizing their skills while not making their mental health or their physical health suffer. So tonight we're going to do the intuitive thing. And actually, I think I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm sure you guys have better things to do on a Friday night. So the introduction, and just so you guys know, I got a lot of this information from a wonderful book that I've been reading, The Empath Survival Guide, Life Strategies for Sensitive People by Dr. Judith Orloff, who is an expert on the empath mindset. So this is really good info. So intuitive empaths can manifest in different forms. Sometimes you can begin as one type and with practice go on to develop the traits of other types too. And Keela and I have talked about this before. Many of us are tough to put in one single box because we have overlaps in many different areas, depending on how that gift formed. Whether you believe intuition comes from your subconscious, your highest self, or a higher power, remember that it facilitates the sacred art of connection with yourself, others, and the universe. So the first one we're going to talk about tonight is dream empaths. I think I skipped a slide here. So we're going to talk about dream empaths, telepathic empaths, earth empaths. And I know we talked a bit about precognitive empaths in a previous show. So we're just going to lightly touch on that one. So the first one we're going to talk about is dream empaths. This one I've always found fascinating because I do not possess this skill, but I'm fascinated by it. Dream empaths regularly have vivid dreams that they remember, an experience that frequently starts in childhood. And you'll see that that's kind of a pattern here with empathic ability. A lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, traumatic childhood experiences are when empathic abilities tend to manifest themselves for the first time. Um, if you're a dream empath, you're attracted to the dream world and look forward to sleeping each night. Dreams are such a powerful form of intuition because they bypass the ego and the linear mind to offer clear, intuitive information. And I think that's one of the things that fascinates me about it is because there's no filters in the dream state. So what you're getting is clear, unbiased information, even from your own mind. They bring guidance about healing, spirituality, and overcoming difficult emotions, sometimes through the healing power of nightmares, telling you how to help yourself and others. Now, I know that line might seem jarring to some people, the healing power of nightmares, but we'll talk about it a little bit more in future episodes when we're talking about the tools that you'll need, and it'll become more clear. Um, One of the things that fascinates me about dream empaths is that they are often able to cross over into the non-living realm in the dream state and speak to um, others. That's one thing that I have been able to do, but I do it more in a subconscious state than actually sleeping. I do often have conversations with my mother, who's been gone for 17 years now, and she answers me back. And like I say, it's more of a subconscious state. I'm not quite awake. I'm not quite asleep, but I do get some important information. I've had some very profound thoughts through conversations with my mother. Mm, Next slide. Some dream empaths may have spirit guides who communicate with them during sleep, and this is what I'm talking about with my mother. Sometimes it could be a dead parent, it could be a relative, it could be a loved one of some sort, um, even animals. So they appear in many forms, such as animals, people, presences, angels, or loving voices. The angel part of it is something that Jimena could probably talk to very well because she's very familiar with that. Um, I've had several conversations with her about speaking with angels. We would have to get into a deeper discussion about talking to angels in a dream state, though, because I think that's a different mindset. So I'm not sure what her thoughts would be on that, but I'd be interested to know. They can tell you how to overcome obstacles, reach your goals, or lead a more spiritual and peaceful life. Now, not everyone has specific spirit guides. If you do, be sure to listen to them. They provide helpful, compassionate information, never anything that is harmful to others or to you. Dream empaths can travel to other realms in dream time and often report that they feel more comfortable in dreams than they do awake. Many can only operate in the material world for so long before needing to be with the sacredness of the dream world. As I read that, I think to myself that that could be a negative thing if it was, if you climb too deep into it. It seems more like it would be a way of escape, um, almost to the point of obsession. So you would really need to be careful about that, and and how often you chase that dream state. As a dream empath, you can develop your abilities. Keep a dream journal and write down your dreams every morning. I don't know about you guys, but I have a really tough time, and I think this is probably common among folks. I have a really tough time remembering my dreams. When I wake up, they seem so vivid in my mind, but within 5 or 10 minutes, they start to fade away. So keeping a dream journal is a wonderful idea because as soon as you wake up, you can start to um, journal those things and keep them fresh in your mind. So that would be a really cool thing to do. Um, Upon awakening, spend a few quiet moments in the hypnagogic state, the state between sleeping and waking, and record whatever snatches of your dreams that you remember. Then you can meditate on the meaning of this information throughout the day. Also, get in the habit of asking a question before you go to sleep. Anything from what direction shall I take in my career to is this relationship good for me? In the morning, see how the answer in the dream applies to your question. Regularly remembering and learning from your dreams will help you more deeply understand yourself and others. This is something that I've never really thought of doing. But I think I might actually try it and see if the dream actually corresponds to the question that you're asking before you go to sleep. That would be a fascinating study. I'd be interested to know how that works. Hello, Joel McCoyne. Welcome, sir. Let's see what Susie got. My mother, who passed, is in every dream I have, even if it has nothing to do with her. She's always there. Wow. I've never heard of that, Susie. Sounds like you have a spirit guide. And I know some of this stuff might sound silly to you guys, but it is, and I would have been in that camp too, just a few years ago. Um, I have had recurring dreams that have certain people in them, but they don't necessarily speak to me. But like I said, in this subconscious state, I have had some very meaningful conversations with my mother. And the reason that I know that it's my mother and not some manifestation in my mind is that she says things and she knows things that only my mother would know, you know? I mean, sure, that could probably be my subconscious playing tricks on me, but she speaks in my mother's voice and she speaks in the same loving tone and uses the same um, cadence in her speech that my mother would use. So if it is a manifestation of my imagination, I hope it never goes away because it's really helped me through some tough stuff. It really has. Joel McCoyne says, I have a recurring dream, same dream, have had it since I was about 25. That's interesting. See, I think we're dream studies ourselves. Let's see here. Susie says she does too. Hmm, that's really interesting. I'd like to delve deeper into that. Hi, Power Lies. Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's go past this one if it will let me. Okay, so that was kind of short. The next one we're going to talk about is telepathic empaths. And they can intuitively read what's happening with others in present time, even if a person's thoughts and feelings are unexpressed. They receive images, impressions, flashes, and knowings about loved ones, coworkers, clients, even strangers. Here's what this phenomenon can look like. You're thinking about a close friend, then the phone rings, and that friend is the caller. You sense that your child is sick, even though she lives 1,000 miles away, and later learn that she is indeed sick. How can you tell if an intuition is accurate and not a projection of your own emotions and issues? Note whether the information you picked up has a neutral or compassionate tone. Be suspect of intuitive flashes with a high emotional charge or that reflect issues you are struggling with. To stay clear, you must know yourself well. For example, if a fear of abandonment is an emotional trigger for you, and you keep sensing that a friend or maybe your partner is going to desert you, you are probably projecting your fear onto them. But if you get a matter of fact flash with a neutral tone that your coworker is going to leave her job, that insight is most likely accurate. You may be upset afterwards because you don't want to lose this person, but the information didn't initially carry an emotional charge. So, I mean, it's the same with anything. Anytime emotions are involved, the vision can be skewed. And that's why it's very important to, and the doctor talks about it a lot in the book, is that she says that she has this skill, the telepathic empath. And she says that she only actually tells her patients maybe 40% of what she gets because she knows that emotion can play into it, fear can play into it, and you have to be able to help the person rather than harm them. And if you're giving them false information, that can be very harmful. Excuse me. Being a telepathic empath can be overwhelming. Intuitions come from many directions. You sense things about strangers in the grocery store, passersby on the street, coworkers, friends, as well as family members. You may not be tuning intentionally, yet the intuitions still come. To avoid overload, stay grounded. The information you pick up allows you to develop both more insight and compassion for people. It's a gift to feel this heightened connection to others' thoughts and feelings. Respect this gift always. And I know, we talk a lot about the overwhelm, and it's there. It really is. And it's very hard as an empath to dial back. We talk about this a lot. It can be extremely overwhelming. And you can't really pick and choose. I mean, you can't like focus on a person and pick up, intuition from them alone. And a lot of times empaths have this thing about being in public. Public spaces can be terrifying because all of these intuitions, emotions, all of these things that you're feeling from different people are all feeding all at once. It's pretty wild. Um, Violet says, "Have you had the teeth falling out dream?" I've never had that one, Violet, but I have heard people who have. And yes, you're right. It's supposed to mean that you have no control over the things in your life. That's a fascinating one. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that one because, like I said, I've never had it myself, but it does it seems like there's something to that. Okay. All right. The next one we're going to talk about is Earth empaths. Earth empaths are attuned to the earth and the changes in her body. Sensually and energetically, they can feel the power of a thunderstorm, the loveliness of the moon, and the warmth of the sun. If you are this type of empath, what happens to the earth is intimately connected to your body. The beauty and health of the earth nourishes and sustains you. The ocean and tides affect everyone, but especially you. You are sensitive to changes in the weather and daylight. Earth empaths may be more prone to seasonal affective disorder, becoming depressed in the winter when the days are shorter and darker. Now, I think I can speak for everybody who doesn't live in a subtropical climate or a place where it's warm most of the time, like Ben in Arizona, or and even now with the craziness of the weather. I mean, a lot of you guys in the South and in the West are experiencing weather you've never experienced before. So here in the North, in Michigan, in the Midwest, on the East Coast, in the northern states, seasonal affective disorder is a real thing. Um, Incidents of unaliving increase dramatically during the winter months. I myself get very depressed when it's pitch black at 5 o'clock at night. It affects your circadian rhythms, it affects everything. And not to mention the fact that shorter days mean less sunlight. That means that most people are going to become vitamin D deficient at some point and may have to reach for supplements, which aren't the same thing as natural sunlight, obviously, but it is a real thing here, and you can really see it in people every winter. But empaths are even more attuned to it. So, especially earth empaths. If you are this kind of empath, your body is intimately connected to the natural world. You can feel how much the earth loves us. You experience her changes as if they were happening to you. That's why you may feel hurt, anxious, or experience health problems if she is harmed. When the earth is happy, you're happy. And when she's in pain, you are too. To stay vibrant and maximize these abilities, you need to frequently connect with the earth. Spend time in forests, by the water, or in the mountains, where you can commune with the elements and feel at home. I can speak to this on a level. I'm sure my dear friend Susie can speak to this as well. We all have a happy place, right? We all have that place that's just ours and makes us feel grounded. And for empaths, especially outdoors, tends to have that effect. And we have those places. I know for Susie, Susie's happy place is Maui because, and she's told me this before, because not because it's, this fancy place to go, but because you have everything you want to be close to earth there. You have mountains, you have rainforests, you have the ocean. You have, I mean, it's just it's nature at its absolute finest. And you can pick one thing or just the whole range and that be your happy place. For me, it's water. Now, I was born and raised in Detroit. I'm surrounded by the Great Lakes. So for me, I have a very specific spot on Lake St. Clair in Anchor Bay. If any of you know the area, I'm sure most of you don't because you're not from here. But it's a private park at the end of a dead end street. And not too many people know about it because it's supposed to be like a community park, but it's public. And it's one of the best kept secrets on the lake. I go there. Sometimes I just sit in my car at the lake's edge and just think, just ruminate. I don't do I know a lot of you people and a lot of people out there have discovered meditation as a way to center yourself. That is my form of meditation. I will sometimes I'll get out of the car. It's a beautiful park. There's picnic tables. It's really nice. And it sits right on the edge of the lake. And you can just see out for miles. And you can hear the seagulls flying overhead and the gentle waves slapping against the rocks. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And that is, I'm not able to meditate, just sit down on the living room floor and close my eyes and meditate. I need that. I need to be attached to the earth in some form, whether it be sitting underneath a tree or being near the water. That's everything for me. And it centers me. And I can always tell when it's been too long since I've been there. I've moved recently, so I don't live a couple miles away from that spot. I live, 45 minutes from that spot. So I really have to make an effort to do that. But I live closer to downtown Detroit now, and we have the Detroit River, and it's just a beautiful skyline. And sometimes I'll go there. We have a really nice city walk. You can sit on a bench and just take it all in. For me, that experience is the best form of therapy there is. Susie says there's a place on Maui where one side is cows and mountains, the other is ocean and sea turtles. It's perfect. I cannot imagine. I would love to go there sometime. I'm going to save up money, Susie, and I'm gonna crash your vacation one of these years. All right, where did we live off? Spend time. Okay, to deepen your bond with the earth, also eat clean, healthy, organic foods. This was one I had not thought of. Better yet, grow them yourself. A diet of junk food separates us from the earth because we're not ingesting her energy. Now, a friend told me this not too long ago that you should eat clean and that you should eat organic. Um, but She didn't really describe it as a way to stay connected with the earth. It makes perfect sense, though. It really does. But it says a diet of junk food separates us from the earth because we're not ingesting her energy. That's fascinating. You can also use the earth as an oracle and ask her questions about yourself or others. She will answer you through your intuition. And when she does, follow her guidance. In native traditions, Mother Earth is revered and cared for. This is part of our purpose and an important way for an Earth empath to feel happy, healthy, and whole. And that's what it's all about, guys. All right. And lastly, we're going to talk about precogs. And like I said, I know we talked about this a little before, but I'm just going to get a little bit deeper, not too much. As previously discussed, precognitive empaths have premonitions about the future, either while they're awake or in their dreams. They may receive these premonitions spontaneously or when they intentionally tune in, a skill that can be developed with practice. You may receive premonitions about someone's health, relationships, career, or other issues. For instance, you might know if a friend will become ill, pass away, get married, or be accepted into college long before others do. This is a wonderful skill that I wish I possessed, but I really don't. Precognitive empaths must be clear about how to use their foreknowledge with integrity. Sometimes you can warn others of a stressful or dangerous situation so that they will be more cautious or avoid it. With happier events, such as a couple becoming pregnant, you can say in a light tone, "My intuition tells me you will have a child soon." Know that the information about the future you're sensing is just a probability. There's always a chance you could be wrong because most futures aren't fixed. So don't think of yourself as an all knowing authority. We know, those of us who are religious, we know there is only one of those in existence, and that is God. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It can be a gift, but you have to know how to wield it, or it would be like any other weapon. You can really harm somebody by telling them that you're having a premonition that such and such is going to happen and fill them with all kinds of anxiety, and then it doesn't. And, obviously that takes practice. Um, Joel says, "My happy place is my house. This is heaven to me. Have my stuff, my family, good friends, no traffic, cows and horses a block away. I am a happy man at home with my wife and cats." Well, that is wonderful, Joel. That sounds like you got it all in one spot. And I'm sure many other people probably feel the same way. That is a good, happy place. It's something about, it's probably just because I grew up on the water that I just feel this kinship. And there's such a sense of calm and peace that washes over me whenever I'm near the water. So when times get toughest for me and no one can find me or get a hold of me, chances are that's where I am. Also, realize that often the events you pick up can't be changed. Sometimes it isn't appropriate to mention what you intuit to someone. And this is what I was talking about. How do you make this decision? The answer is always about what will serve the person. Check in with your intuition and ask, is this information appropriate to share? Would it help this person to know? Then listen for an intuitive yes or no and follow that guidance. If you are unsure, keep your insights to yourself until a stronger message comes. Well meaning intuitives can scare people if they aren't mindful of their presentation or are motivated by ego and a desire to impress people with their talents. Always keep the other person's welfare foremost in your mind. To maintain the integrity of this gift, you must practice constraint and humility. Amen. I found this quote from Joshua Shaw in a book called "I Took a Plane to Die in Denver." You don't even have to say a word. I can look into your eyes and tell something happened. You think I won't feel it, but I always do. And that should be the Empath Creed. All right, and that's all I've got for that. So let's go through here and see if we missed any chats. If anybody's got any comments on what we just talked about. There was another form of empath that I was fascinated to talk about, but I had a really tough time finding information about it. And when I did, it talked more about some of these things to do with empaths cross over into the realm of spirituality. And that's kind of a different kettle of fish. When you start talking about mediums and people who have those sorts of gifts, like the ability to speak to the dead and things like that, that crosses over into that's less on the psychiatric side and more on the spiritual side. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds into something like that. But there are people, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm completely spacing on what the terminology is, but they're a type of physical empath, and it borders on mediums, and so that's why I was reluctant to do it in the presentation. But I've always been fascinated by people who can hold an object in their hand that belonged to a long dead relative, like your great grandmother's locket, or your grandfather's home, or something like that. They can hold it in their hands and they can sense who the person was, what type of person they were, and even sense the emotions that the person felt when they used that object. I've always found that fascinating. But again, like I say, I think that crosses over more into like mediums and people who can speak to the dead, and things that are undocumented in psychiatry and psychology. So we tend to shy away from those things because that's not what we were looking at. Violet wants to know, what was the name of the author in the book again? I'm assuming you're talking about the book that the presentation was based on. Bear with me just a second because I just closed it. Um, the book is called The Empath's Survival Guide: Life Strategies for Sensitive People. And it's by a brilliant um, doctor, Judith Orloff. I'm pretty sure Keela's familiar with her. I think most people in the mental health sphere are. She is one of the foremost authorities on empathic abilities as it applies to psychology. Excuse me. Joel McCoy says, let's see here. My wife and I have a friend. She feels almost everything. She will call when you are sick. She knows when stuff is hard. Amazing. She is just connected to the world. She knew the day my mother died. She called me in the morning. She knew it would be that day. Wow. That is a very powerful empath, Joel. You're lucky to have somebody like that in your life. I always think about, when I think of precogs, I think of, first I think of the Tom Cruise movie, um, Minority Report. And I also think about people who have the ability, like someone wakes up and they have this terrible intuition that their loved one that's about to get on an airplane needs to not get on that plane because that plane's going to crash. And they call the person and they catch them just moments before they're going to board the plane, and it happens. There were a lot of stories like that I heard after 9/11 of people who had this phone call from someone. They were getting ready to go to work in the towers that day, and somebody called them and said, "Don't go to work today. I don't know. I can't explain it to you, but something horrible is going to happen." And I remember hearing several stories like that. So it can be, like I'm saying, it can be a very, very powerful gift to be a precog. But again, you have to practice it. You have to make sure that emotion isn't playing into it, or fear, that it's coming from a place of, I guess, just unconscious recognition. Or it can be, you could really scare the hell out of somebody. Let's see. I missed any? Yeah, Susie's told me about that place on Maui, and it's absolutely fascinating. I would love to see it someday. I'm sure she's probably got tons of pictures, but pictures just don't do it justice. Okay. I'm not seeing any other comments. And guys, I know it's Friday night and it's the first day of spring and people want to go out and do things and you know. So I won't keep you too long. I know this was always planned to be a pretty short one anyway, so I'll let you guys get to your weekends, I promise. Um Hello, Fiona. Psychometry is the term for reading an object or flower. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Um, yes, there are people out there also, and we didn't really talk about it a ton, but as far as the being able to read, so people can read objects, and that tells them the past. There are also people who can read um, uh, nature, so plant life. There are, those people that that just have a green thumb, man. They couldn't kill anything if they tried because they're attuned. And I know this is going to sound silly, but they're so attuned to nature that they can look at the plant and sense that it needs water or that it needs more sunlight or that it needs something. And they tend to be master gardeners and it's fascinating. The same can be said for animals. There are people out there who can look at an animal and just know that it's in pain. They know that something's not right. They know that it needs something. And they just instinctively know what that something is. And, you know, if you get into what your calling is, okay, those people tend to be veterinarians. They tend to be, veterinary assistants. They're somehow in that field. Like I said, people who are attuned to plants tend to be master gardeners or just, have the loveliest lawn and garden on the block. Um, it it makes it easier for an empath on an emotional and spiritual level to be able to connect in the way that their gift allows them to as often as possible. And, it makes you feel more grounded. So it is a wonderful thing if it's practiced, properly. Susie says, my dad's that way with the animals. Some people are just absolutely natural. I have seen the veterinarian that we used to take our dog to years ago, and I swore by this guy because he had this knack for just knowing. Usually a vet will run your pet through a bunch of tests and x-rays and MRIs to find out what's wrong. But this guy could just I swear, I watched him do it many times. He would just lay his hand on the dog, close his eyes, and he could just sense what the problem was. And I'm not going to say he was right 100% of the time, but more often than not, he was on the right track and he knew exactly where he was going with it. And that always just fascinated me. Even as somebody who has, I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm a super empath and I pick up on every person's emotion and I know exactly what to tell them to do with their lives. And no, that's not how it works. It comes in waves, especially when you're in public. It comes at you from every different direction. And the reason why I read all of these books on empathic abilities and how to center yourself and how to hone your skills is because there's no guidebook. I mean, there's really nothing out there that can tell you because each empath is unique in their abilities. And it's very difficult to know what exercises to do to strengthen this part of your empathic ability or what techniques to use to center yourself and get yourself into a position where you can identify, okay, that's not my feeling, that's his feeling across the room, and separate those things out. It's it is a lifetime struggle. It really is. And it's one of those things that if you want to get good at it and you want to get to a point in your life where it doesn't overwhelm you to the point of just exhaustion, you have to um, you have to constantly practice. You have to constantly train your mind, and you have to learn those grounding techniques. And that's why all of these shows that we've been doing are leading up to that. And I think that's going to be, personally, I think that's going to be a two-parter because there's just so much information that I found in reading these books on how the healing empath was another one what started me on the journey. And it actually has a workbook built into it, and it has some tests. And I think that when we do those episodes on the healing part, um, we might pop those up on the screen or post them in the comment section so you guys can take that test yourself. So if you think that you may have empathic abilities, if there are things that you pick up on that you can't explain, it's a very short test. I believe it's like 15 questions, maybe 20. Very short answer questions, but it will help you. It'll help guide you, and then you can know um, the tools and the things that you can do to help keep that at bay while also helping people and also maintaining your own physical and mental health. That's so important. Okay, let's see here. Do we have any other comments starred? Nope. Don't see anything else. All right. Well, we've been going for about 42 minutes now. And if you guys don't have any other questions, please just, if you can, take a moment and send some love to Keela. We are praying that Thursday, when I'm back, Thursday night, that we can do her birthday stream. Please, God, don't let Keela end up in the hospital on her birthday 2 years in a row. That would not be good. Either way, so we will be doing something on Thursday. Keela has also mentioned that if she's feeling better, she wants to perhaps do a members only stream while I'm gone. And hopefully she's strong enough to do that. I know because she's still having a tough time with that hand, which is why you're seeing my face probably more often than you would like lately. But yeah, we're trying to get her back to 100% again, which is, as she'll tell you, has been quite a struggle. So prayers for Keela, and hopefully I did a halfway decent job tonight solo, and you guys will come back to watch more. In the meantime, take care of yourself, appreciate the things in life that you love, and don't let what's going on in the world get you down. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.